Welcome into PressBox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. With me is the managing editor of PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. Unmute yourself, Luke, is Luke Jackson. And of course, the guy grinning with the baseball cap. What does that one say, Ross?
This is Kenny Singleton's Cool Kids
Oh,
golf tournament,
the
which
cool
is
kids.
going to be the end of next month.
All
So
right.
that's
Will you be up for that?
absolutely. I,
You
I
don't
don't miss that. I
you
don't
don't
miss.
miss that. You want
Yeah.
Luke or I to caddy for you?
Hey, you come on out. The more, the merrier.
All right. Hey, we are brought to you, and if it's Monday afternoon, we're talking baseball in the O's, and we are brought to you by our friends at AJ Michaels. And also, well, let me read their catch line. I thought I was expecting it on that page. And they ask a question of all of you out there in our listening and viewing audience. What company makes your home more energy efficient, kills all allergens and viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates? AJ Michaels. Turn to the experts, AJ Michael and Carrier. And we thank them for sponsoring our broadcasts each and every Monday and Thursday. And if you're craving that classic New York deli experience, look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand rolled bagels, and something different, a bar. That's right, a bar. Atman's has food and drink specials every day. They're now open, get a load of this, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game like tonight. What time's that game starting? Like 7:45 our time, Luke?
7:45.
7:45 from St. Louis, Missouri. You can watch it down at Atman's Deli. An authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com. And had dinner the other night at another fine establishment that brings you these podcasts. That is the Costas Inn. And we'll break in about 15 minutes and give you a little words of wisdom about the Costas Inn and the best way to plan your summer crab feasts with a plural. Guys, I wrote my power rankings, and Luke, you know, because you edit them, I usually open with a specific topic, but more MLB overall baseball related. Today I stayed local and I wrote a piece about it's time for the Orioles to show a little respect for one Cole Irvin. Uh, you edited it, so you read it. I know you're the one guy that read it, and I sent it to Ross, so I know two people have read it. I thought it was an interesting take that I think that I get John means what they think of him, and that Cole Irvin is sort of a little bit like the redheaded stepchild. But do you like my point that he's the one that's pitching at a very, very high level now, and they're sort of messing to me, not messing with him intentionally, they're messing with his mojo right now.
Yeah, I think that's certainly possible. And you and I have texted, obviously off the air, about what they've decided to do with the rotation in the meantime. But I will say that apparently they're going to go to some sort of modified six-man rotation
Yeah.
uh, in the future, especially with about 2 off days in the next 5 weeks,
Well,
something
they play
along those lines.
41 days of games with two off days in there.
Right. And so they're going to need all the starting pitching they can get throughout that stretch. And who knows, someone will probably get banged up during that stretch, and now you're back to a five-man rotation. So I do think that Cole was probably the easiest one to shift to the bullpen because he's done it before.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think anyone else has in the rotation has significant experience in a major league bullpen. So that probably made him the easiest one to shift. And also at the same time, he's going to get a lot more starts. That being said, I think that you're absolutely right that he's in the midst of probably his best stretch as a major leaguer. I
Yeah.
think he said that after his last start that this is the best he's felt mentally, emotionally, physically as a major league starter. You take him out of that role, you put him in the bullpen, gives you two big innings yesterday
Yeah.
to help you clean up Jacob Webb's mess. So, yeah, I think it's a very valid point, a very fair point that you shouldn't mess with someone probably pitching as well as Cole Irvin is right now. but I'm curious as to hear what your solution would have been then with the
Well, I
6
wrote
games
my
they had.
solution a couple of weeks ago. I actually thought, and I know Ross's opinion because we talked about it before we went on the air and before you joined us, Luke. You think this was obvious move that because nobody else is capable really of doing what Cole Irvin is. I thought that means given what he's been up against, that this would have been a good year to plug him in as a long man and soak up some of those innings that keep getting used by Cano and Coulomb, and whoever else is there, Webb, where a long guy can maybe get you through into the eighth inning when a starter takes you 5 2/3 or 6 1/3. You get 2/3. You get 2 innings out of a long guy. Ross, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Irvin. His last 27 innings, he's given up 2 runs, which is doing a great job. Obviously, last 32, 4 earned runs. For me, they know the type of guy he is. He's a seasoned veteran. He knows how to start, and obviously, he knows how to relieve. Because a lot of times, pitchers will try to do something different coming in as a reliever than they do as a starter. But he has an idea how to do this, how to prepare for that. I think he is the obvious guy that could go to the bullpen and do that for several reasons because he's done it. And the other thing is you've got Rodriguez, you've got Means, who both are coming off of injuries. You don't know how they're going to bounce back after each start. I mean, you got to kind of play it by ear the whole way. But Kramer's doing a good job. Burns, you know what he's going to do. But I really think Kramer is the guy that can step in and start for you, and he can go to the bullpen and do what he needs to do.
You mean Irvin? You said
Yeah,
Kramer.
yeah. No, Kramer's he's a starter.
Yeah.
Some guys, their mentality in the two places are different, and it doesn't have to be. You're trying to get guys out, and Cole Irvin has done a good job. But I think he is the logical guy to go. And with all the games in a row coming up, I mean, we're going to see what happens, especially next month when you're playing some of the top teams all month. So you're going to get a good idea of what's going on, and he's going to be needed, and they're going to use him.
And I thought, Ross, you made a great point about they've got 3 starters working their way back from injuries right now, and Grayson Rodriguez, John Means,
And Kyle.
and Kyle Bradish, and you probably want to keep them on as strict a routine as you possibly can. So I think that's probably part of it too. The other thing is that could it be part of it being like this is the rotation that they intended to have kind of like back in January when they were thinking about adding Corbin Burns. This is sort of the rotation that they were intending to have. Do they want to take a look at this, what they thought they were going to have? Could that be part of it? Maybe. But also, if the game isn't rained out on Wednesday, we're not even having this discussion because Cole Irvin makes that start. So I think there are some different things at play here.
Yeah. Do you think he is respected by the team and they're communicating this to him?
Oh, I'm sure they are. I mean, that's a big part of Brandon Hyde's job is to communicate whatever the organization's vision is
I
to the
say
players.
this, Luke, not to interrupt you. I say this because last year, after 3 starts, I remember the club let him talk to the media after his 4th start, I think, last year, which was, by the way, the best of the 4, but it wasn't very good. It was like 4 2/3 and 3 runs. And they let him talk to us, and he said, I'm just going to go out there again next time and then like 20 minutes later, we heard he'd been optioned to Norfolk. So I'm wondering, do you think they kind of went to him as soon as that game was rained out and said, here's the game plan now for you? He's acting as if they did communicate it to him.
Yeah, and like I was saying, that's a big part of Brandon Hyde's job is to make sure all of his players are bought in, especially when you're trying to win a World Series. That's a big part of his. That's maybe the biggest part of his job is to understand, to kind of relay. And Ross, you could speak to this a lot better than I can, but relay the organization's vision for the team and each player, and get each player to buy in so that everyone is pulling on the same rope in the same direction. So, like I said, go ahead, Ross.
This same situation happened to me in 1974. My first year with the Orioles, I pull out 294 innings, and we play
Is that
Oakland.
all?
Yeah, and we play Oakland in the playoffs.
What was that, over 3 years?
And unfortunately, no, it was just one. I can spit out some innings, but 74, like I said, that many innings. Well, you had Cuellar, Palmer, McNally, and myself. Well, who is the guy that's going to go to the bullpen for the playoffs? It was me, and that's what I was, the guy that could do it, because I was obviously younger and would bounce back, a little bit better. I could pitch.
And that's why we didn't beat the A's, right, in 74?
No, we didn't score any runs, but that was typical
They had some pretty good pitching there on the Oakland side of things.
yeah. Oh, really? But that happens, and that you take the guy that can, hopefully, that your manager and the front office things can do the best job to help the team win. And Cole Irwin is a guy that's a team guy, obviously, and I'm sure they went to him even last year and did it. It's amazing for him. It just shows the character he has for doing what the team wanted, and he's a winner, and he wants to do whatever he can to help this team get to the the World Series.
To the promised land.
Yep.
Luke, let's talk a little bit about a guy, number 2, on the uniform on his back. It looks like
He's pretty good, huh?
Looks like a Superman cape. You asked us to write, me and Glenn and Jim Henneman write some, or was it
Phil? I think it might have been Phil Backer.
Phil Backer, write some predictions on the sports bet props before season. And one of the guys, I put a list of 4 or 5 guys that could lead the major leagues in home runs, and one of them was plus 10,000. And I suggested a bet of like $100, $10, and I think you'd win like $1,000 for that. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I had one of them was Gunnar Henderson, and he happens to be leading the major leagues right now in home runs. And then you reminded me of something I said to you last year, that if he stays with this organization his entire career, or the grand majority of his career, he's got a chance to possibly be the best player to ever adorn that uniform. And that's some not shabby praise.
Pretty heady company. Yeah.
Your thoughts on both of those predictions?
Well, I'll tell you what, when you told me that last year that you saw that in him, I thought you were being a little hyperbolic. And I'll tell you what, you were not being hyperbolic. I mean, he's got all the physical tools to do it if he's fortunate enough to stay healthy, and the club can find a way to keep him in Baltimore for the vast majority of his career. And I don't say that lightly, considering the kind of career that Cal Ripken had, who is one of the best shortstops ever. And what we're saying is that
I'll say this: he's in the headspace now that they may want to start plotting where to put a statue one day out there in the Legends part of Camden Yards. Possibility. It's a possibility.
And before we get yelled at, we're saying there's a chance. We're not saying that this is definitely going to happen. We're saying that there's a chance.
I'm saying it's definitely happening.
Okay. That
you're stirring a pot.
Of course, I think Ross Grimsley should have a statue out there.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I got one. I put one up out. It's real small.
David Modell, the late David Modell. I'm very good friends with Benny Thompson. Do you remember Benny, Ross?
Yes.
Special teams ace. He said he went to David Modell and he said, how about putting my name up in that Ravens Ring of Honor? And he said, I got a better idea. He goes, why don't you change your name to Exit, and we'll put it all over the stadium.
There you go.
So I do have a question for you, Stan, and you mentioned this off the air.
Yeah.
Who at this point is the best player you've ever seen in an Oriole uniform? Not best career, but best player you've ever seen in an Oriole uniform at one time.
Well, the best player I've ever seen in an Oriole uniform, and this is no disrespect to Brooks, Eddie Murray, Robbie Alomar, or anybody, Boot Powell, any of the greats. The best player I've ever seen was Frank Robinson, from top to bottom as an overall baseball player, baseball mind. And I see some of the same heart that Frank had. I
Mhm.
see that in Gunnar Henderson. You know, when I see it, when he hits a ball and he knows he's got a chance for a triple, he's not farting around like turning it on like as he gets to second base. He's turning it on his way to first base, knowing I got a chance here. And he takes another look out there. And boy, they're not even really close to throwing him out. When he makes the decision to go, he's
Mhm.
got a great spatial relationship view of things. And I just think he's a remarkable player.
He's
But I
got
think Frank was every bit that great too.
Gunnar has a fantastic feel and clock for the game defensively
Yep.
and on the bases. And I don't know if you can teach that. It's innate. He just has it. He just and some guys you could try to drill it into him and it just doesn't stick. Um,
Ross, go ahead, Luke, and then I want to ask
no,
you.
go ahead, Ross.
Ross, I wanted to ask you about that. We see him every night, Luke and I. We watch every game. Do you see it in the games, the amount of games you see with the Gunner in them? Do you see
I,
how great we think he is?
oh, absolutely. Talking about guys, running balls out, taking the extra base. All the players do that with the Orioles. I've never seen anybody that really a
Dogs
ground
it.
ball, a
Yep.
ground ball back to the pitcher, a ground ball to an infielder, a first or third. He's going to be out, but they make it close. They take the extra base. They do all these little things that not only I think that we see, but scouts that watch the organization, that watch the big league games. You watch a big league game, the Orioles do a lot of things right. These other clubs, some of them are just atrocious at the fundamental things that they do. And the Orioles do a lot of great things. Henderson, he makes things look easy at times, but he's always, like you said, his head's in the game. He knows what to do. And obviously they got a lot of players like that, but he is
Yep.
going to be, he stays healthy and he wants to play and continues to have fun doing it, which it looks like he does. He could be around for a long time, hopefully with the Orioles.
So
Guys,
Stan,
let
okay.
me jump in. Let me jump in and say a couple words about the Costas in, and then Luke will pick up your thoughts on that, and then we'll move into talking about a couple other topics on the O's. But right now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Costas Inn. I was out there last week, and the Costas Inn has been there for you for over 50 years. If you haven't been there in a while and you got an easy drive to do it, I'm not saying they're poor mouthing or anything like that. Key Bridge has affected them, and your old friends at the Costas Inn could use you now. People that used to drive from Glen Burnie or Catonsville, it took 20, 25 minutes to get to Costas Inn now. Now it takes over an hour. So some of those people are making more local choices. That means there's a lot more room for you at the Costas Inn right now. Food quality is still fantastic. People were still packed in there the other night for crabs. And again, steamed crabs, staple of Costas Inn for these many, many, many years. They've got a great reputation for them. So I don't have to tell you other parts of the menu which are equally as great. But if you're interested in doing a crab feast with your friends, 6 or 8 of them, and you need 3, 4, 5 dozen crabs, you got to call ahead 410-477 1975. Make a little plan so you can get the prices on your crabs, the availability, sizes, and all of that. And you'll pick out a good time, and it'll be a great time at the Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. Tell them the guys on the Monday Talk, Sports Talk, we're talking about the Costas Inn. Luke, you were just getting ready to jump in a little bit more about Gunner.
Yeah. So I was watching the game the other day, and Jim Palmer said something when Gunnar made a play to his right in the hole and spun and threw the guy out at first base by about a step. He said that Gunnar plays the position as athletically as anybody he's ever seen, which got me to thinking. I didn't see Cal play shortstop. I saw him play third base. Now, Cal was probably even a bigger guy than Gunnar. Gunnar is probably
Yeah,
about 6'3". Cal was about 6'4". How did Cal play the position? How are they similar? How are they different in how they play?
Ross. You want to take that?
No, I've seen Cal. I was there when he first broke in, and yeah, they're similar.
Excuse me, guys. I'm going to go shut my door. I got a yapping dog that I
Excellent.
think is catching on the air.
but but anyway, Luke, watching him play, Cal did a lot of good things. The athletic guy, they're very similar. I think some of the things they do, and I watch them size wise, and they're very similar looking. Big tall guys that for their size. The really key thing for a lot of guys, I think back in the 70s, the 80s, they played the position off the pitchers, what the pitchers did. And you watch if they would be moving as the pitch was going to home plate. And a lot of times, and if you didn't hit the spot, there wasn't gonna be anybody there to make a play. And that what was good about Rip. He had that ability to do that, as a lot of guys did back then. You don't see that as often now because they're looking at cards to play a certain place where that guy hits the ball the most.
Yeah.
Regardless about what the pitcher does. Now that was a totally different time. I mean, I liked it back then. You hit your spot, they hit the ball. There's usually going to be somebody there to make a play. But those two guys look very similar in a lot of things they do, other than swing the bat.
When Rick Dempsey was catching, Dempsey called the game. In consort with the pitcher and Ray Miller, and then they acquired Terry Kennedy, who lasted about 2 years. But after that, all through the 90s, they had very nondescript catchers. And Cal used to really take over a lot of the pitch calling, I think. Haven't you heard that, Ross?
That happened, yeah.
Yeah, and he knew where to play, where the hitters would hit. And his size wasn't as big a detriment as it would have been, say, if Ken McMullen of the Washington Senators tried to play shortstop.
Right.
Because Cal just really knew the game. He was a student of the game and knew where they'd hit the ball. But I've seen them all. Louis Aparicio, Belanger, Ripken.
Belanger for me was one of the best.
Louis was incredible, won 5 or 6 Gold Gloves. Belanger was amazing. Ripken was so steady. And I'll tell you what, Bordick did a terrific job playing shortstop for the Orioles defensively. But this guy is, and J.J. Hardy for me, is just about as good as anybody I've ever seen. Reminded me a lot the way he played the position of Mark Belanger. Same footwork and the same. You remember the pause Belanger had when he'd get it up here,
Yep.
and then he just, boop, and it was always a strike to the first baseman.
Stan, you ever seen Belanger dive for a ball?
No, he always
never. I never saw that.
Right.
He never wore a cup.
Right.
And his glove was the size of your hand.
Right.
It's amazing. He told me one time a ball went by and he goes, and I looked at him. I looked at like, can't he come in and says, Grims, we can't get to everything. Of course, you usually do. And I throw a pitch and hit the ball and I base hit and there's somebody there to make a play.
Hey, I had a chat with Palmer the other day up in the press box during that rain delay, and we were talking about Westberg. You haven't seen a ton of Westberg yet, but you've seen enough. He says, and I wholeheartedly agree. He says he plays the game like Bobby Grich.
That
is not faint praise. That is a high level of praise.
Oh yeah. And I'll tell you what, Bobby should have gotten a lot more consideration for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And one of those who did give him a vote, Jim Henneman. Not surprising.
Yeah.
The best minds in baseball.
Steady player.
Jim knows ball.
Yeah. Jim Henneman definitely knows ball. And that's the same Jim Henneman that the press box is named after at Camden Yards, thanks in part to Jennifer Grandal and the PR department of the Orioles for understanding. And I have to give them credit because I think they really, when I approached them about doing something, it wasn't my idea to name the press box after them. I can't take credit for that. But when I talked to them, Dan Connolly also talked to Jennifer about doing something to honor Jim. give them credit for doing their homework and understanding what this guy who's now, close to 90 years old and shows up and he's got a cane, he still gets around well, and he still talks the game and you edit his stuff. So, he writes still as good as anybody in town.
And I mean, this guy is up to date on like the new StatCast information that came out,
Yeah,
not like
I
bat
can't.
speed and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
he's terrific, and it was a great honor. And I think the PR department there at the Orioles understands what he's done, and that this is the proper, way
awesome.
to
Yeah.
memorialize him beyond his time on this planet. Um, we've got the St. Louis Cardinals and the Cubs. Then the Orioles come home for the Boston Red Sox and Tampa Bay Rays.
So it's the White Sox, not the Cubs.
I'm
They're going to be
sorry,
in
you're right.
Chicago,
It
but
is
White Sox
Chicago.
today. Yeah.
It is a toddling town.
I'll give you half credit for that.
Yeah, I do. Your thoughts on what we got going on the next 4 series?
Well, it would probably be good to beat up on the White Sox for sure. That would probably, in that 4-game series, that would probably be good. I would advise that. But yeah, beyond that, yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that jumps out to me.
Okay. Ross, anything jump out at you for the next 4 series?
Make up some ground against the Cardinals and the White Sox.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it'd be nice if the Yankees lost every once in a while. That'd be good.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna, like I said, the O's they got some of the top teams coming in, and they're gonna be playing them next month, so you'll get a good idea. But they played well against everybody so far, so why think any different? I mean, they're an outstanding team, and if they stay healthy, good things are going to happen.
I moved the Yankees in front of the Orioles slightly. I moved the Phillies ahead of the Dodgers. I got the Dodgers at 2. Then I had the Yankees at 3, Luke, and the Orioles 4. And I moved Kansas City up to 5. I think Atlanta has been sort of in neutral.
I'll tell you what, one of the best free agent acquisitions, maybe the best value acquisition of the offseason was Seth Lugo.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I watched Reynaldo Lopez pitch well for the Braves today. And Jordan Hicks, actually, unfortunately, his velocity was a little down his last start. But those guys are former relievers who wanted opportunities as starters, as free agents. And all of them are doing well. And it just makes me wonder whether that will be a trend to try to get fresher arms, because sometimes when you sign free agent starters, they've got so many miles on their arm and you're not quite sure what kind of shape their arm is in. Whereas
great observation.
Maybe with a reliever, you get a fresher arm and more juice in the arm. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's good. You see with Hicks, starting, he's not going to have he's going to.
He ain't throwing 100 as a starter.
No, I mean, you have to learn to pitch. And that happens to a lot of guys. You'll get to the big leagues with some velocity, but learning how to pitch, change speeds, and locate the ball is
very important. One of the best pitches in the big leagues this year has been that Seth Lugo curveball. I mean, he really spins the crap out of that curveball. It's fun to watch.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Cole Irvin has been a lot of fun to watch this year. You're not used to putting him in that echelon of pitcher, but I think his pitchability this year, Ross, has been just phenomenal. His velocity definitely has upticked a little bit, which helps set up more of his off-speed offerings. But I think he's been really, really solid this year.
And he's done everything they've asked him to do.
Yeah, it seems like he's a lot more comfortable pitching in to right-handers.
Yeah,
and that's going to be helpful.
Ross, tell me about Corbin Burns before we get out of here. Came here. I mean, he's a former Cy Young Award winner, and his numbers are fine. I was expecting him to be more of a 7 2/3, 8 innings. I really did. He seems like, and I'm not saying he goes to Brandon and says, take me out after 6, but his games have taken on a pattern now. And I think it's his pitch count. He hasn't been as efficient with his pitch count. Your thoughts?
He's got that cutter. He's got that hard breaking ball that goes straight down. That guys just left-handers swing over the top of it. But that little cutter he throws, he's around the plate. I think he'll pitch at times he'll pitch away from contact, and that will, put him a few more pitches than you'd like to have. But that's how he pitches, and he's averaging, right around 6 innings a start, which is good. And I think as the season progresses, you'll probably see him. I mean, if you're going to use 6 pitchers, you're going to have 6 starters. You can get a few more, but they're really conscious about the number of pitches guys throw, and it should be concerned with it. But a guy can throw 120 pitches, which they probably won't do, and a guy can throw 90 pitches, and those 90 pitches are more taxing on the arm than 120. I know that's how it used to be, and the way they throw now, I mean, they're all out every pitch. So but he's a guy that's been, for me, he's been really fun to watch. He really seems to be a bulldog, and I think they're kind of bringing him along a little bit slower and not trying to, drop a whole lot of innings on him early, much like they should have did with Kimbrel. I was surprised with that situation, using him so much, and that you got to be careful with that. But I think Burns has been tremendous for, every aspect of being with the team, what he's done, what the guys can learn from him, and just watching him, man. You can just watch a guy like that and go, I'm going to do what he does, and I'm going to burn his ear a little bit and find out what's going on with him, and maybe something I can take and help me. But he's been a plus, big plus.
Well, one of the big interesting developments with this pitching staff right now, as it's put together, they've got Cole Irvin and Suarez, and that's 2 legitimate people that can give you length. And I think that you're going to see some games where the 2 of them impact saving that bullpen a little bit. I think you bring it because they're not coming in. The starters are pitching well enough that they really don't have opportunities like after 2 2/3 or 3 1/3. They're getting at least into the 5th and maybe the 6th. That gives a Suarez or a Cole Irvin a chance to pitch 2 2/3 and gets you where you don't have to use Cano every night, and then gets you to Kimbrel in the games where you need a closer. Luke?
They have done a lot. Yeah, with go ahead, Luke. Sorry.
Yeah, I think throughout baseball there needs to be more multi-inning relievers. I think that's another thing that's kind of gone by the wayside. That I mean, a reliever who can go 2 or 3 innings, can get left and right-handed hitters out, and doesn't need like 4 days to recover.
Right.
I think that's that guy, that Sammy Stewart type.
Very valuable.
That's extremely valuable.
Yeah.
That 100 inning reliever is just not around anymore.
Yeah. You know who was great at that, Ross, was Dave Schmidt.
Yes.
He could start for you, but he could always give you 3 1/3 innings out of the bullpen. He was always terrific.
That's, guys knowing how to do that is a bonus, is a plus. They pitch, and they're not so much as just going out and throwing. They're pitching. They have to do that if they're going to be used. That's just like Tippy. What Weaver wore him out, and Tippy wasn't going to say, no, I can't pitch. He's going to go. And I'll never forget it. He was pitching one day, and he threw a fastball, and somebody said, that's the best changeup I've ever seen. I forget who it was. He goes, that was my fastball. I pitched 6 days in a row. But that's what, I mean, hey, you're going to go out there, you're going to battle with what you got. But I think
Ross, you get tonight's last word. That's going to do it for us. I'll be on with Eric Garfield Thursday. I'm not sure the time yet. It'll probably be in the 4 to 5 range. That's going to do it. The 3 of us will be back next Monday, somewhere late afternoon. You can read my MLB Power Rankings at PressBoxOnline.com with some opening commentary about the respect I have for Cole Irvin. I'm wondering if the ball club respects him enough at this point in time. That's going to do it for today. Our friends at AJ Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning, we thank them. We thank our friends with the new Atman's Deli at Harbor Point. They've got everything there that a deli has, including a bar. Check it out for any of the Orioles night games or afternoon games. It's really like an old-fashioned bar. You sit there and watch the game on the tube. We also thank our friends at the Costas Inn. Plan your crab feast now. Give them a call at 477-1975, or look on their website for other options at costasin.com. For Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson, I'm Stan the Fan, and we'll see you down the road just a little bit. Bye.